Blue Sky Outdoor Living claims that with the Mammoth Fire Pit, you can get a big campfire experience that a whole group can enjoy, while also being free from smoke. It's also supposed to be really easy to clean and can burn both wood and pellets. But does it actually live up to all this? Is the Blue Sky Mammoth actually smokeless? And how practical is the size of a fire pit? Is it too big? We're going to try to find out the answers to all of those questions so that you can know if this fire pit is something great for you to spend your money on or not. In this video, we are going to unbox this monster, and we're going to burn both wood and pellet to see if this big boy really does give you the ultimate backyard big campfire experience. The Mammoth comes just like this, and it is one big and heavy box. Let's open this thing up and see what it looks like. Instructions. This is the grate for the bottom of the fire pit. This is the bottom part that catches the ashes. Well, that was both ugly and exhausting, but I got it out, and it is really pretty. I do kind of like it. Altogether, there are only 3 pieces that make up this fire pit itself. You've got the outside burn chamber, and then inside you have the grate that I showed you where the ash can fall through. And then there's a removable bottom piece with handles that you can easily lift out. The ash, in theory, falls into that tray, and then you can dump it wherever you want to dump it. So it's really simple to put together. Really, its weight is the only factor that makes it even slightly challenging. And this fire pit does weigh in at 91 pounds. So get a friend. This fire pit is about 30 inches wide and about 18 inches tall. It's made completely out of steel, and the whole thing is sprayed with a high temperature paint, which is kind of important because it's a fire pit. The design of this fire pit itself is what's supposed to make it smokeless. I can hear my voice echoing when I talk into this thing. So how this is supposed to work is that air enters those vents at the bottom, and then it is heated in that hollow chamber that surrounds the fire pit and rises. The inside of the burn chamber has holes all the way around the inside at the top. So as the air exits these holes, it's supposed to be superheated and incinerating many more particles and little pieces of debris. This is what Blue Sky calls the secondary burn. The Mammoth Fire Pit comes with a 3-year limited warranty, and you have to save your receipt. So save your receipt. The reason this is limited is because it covers if a weld would break or something would snap off. It's pretty much if the fire pit is no longer functional. It's not going to cover any rust or any paint flaking off. And I am a little bit excited because I got a few accessories to go with the Mammoth that I want to show you. And the first one is the spark screen. This spark screen and the lid lifting tool that I'm going to show you came in a bundle with my fire pit. This does take a little bit of assembly, and by a little bit, I mean a little bit. The only thing you need to do to assemble the screen itself is screw in this little circle part with some threads on it, and it comes with a nut that you use to fasten it down. Okay. I had to find a crescent wrench, but it took me longer to find the crescent wrench than it did to actually screw it together. But it's done, and it just sits on like this. And now I'm going to put together the lid lifting tool. For this, one piece just screws into the other piece. Done and simple. So when you're using your fire pit, you can just lift your spark screen on and off with this tool. Just like that. And as you saw, I bought these things together to save a little money. And if you want to learn more about this Mammoth bundle, I'll have a link to it in the description. So next up is the tabletop accessory. This is a really heavy metal lid. It kind of hurts to hold this way, but I wanted you to see the top of it. And you can sit it on top of the Mammoth once it's cooled off, like this. This tabletop lid both protects the Mammoth from water and also turns your fire pit into a coffee table when it's not in use. So it kind of makes it a transformer. Fire pit into coffee table. When it's on, it's supposed to be slightly angled so that water can run off of it. But when I'm sitting here, it must be subtle enough that I don't even notice it at all. It actually looks like a really nice coffee table, and it's sturdy. You can definitely put lots of drinks on here or even food or whatever, and it's definitely going to hold whatever obvious things you would put on a coffee table. And the last accessory I got to show you is the protective cover. This does feel like it's really high quality. It's like a canvas material on the outside, and the inside has a plastic lining. The cover is generously sized enough that it slips on really easily. So It was not a struggle to put this on. This isn't like trying to put a snow boot on a toddler. For some of the smaller Blue Sky fire pits that I really wouldn't have to get a cover because they're portable enough that I could just store them in the garage easily. But why I definitely got a cover for the Mammoth was that it weighs 91 pounds, and I'm not just going to be moving this thing around all the time. I mean, it could, but that would be terrible for my back. So this way I can just cover it up where it sits and it'll be protected. Easy. So without further ado, let's go burn some stuff in this. First test we're going to do with our Blue Sky Mammoth is to burn wood. So I'm going to start by putting in a handful of my favorite fire starter, stump chunks. I put a couple handfuls of stump chunks in the middle of the fire pit, and now I'm going to layer that with a little bit bigger kindling. And with that physics experiment complete, I'm going to layer that with a pyramid of firewood. The instructions said to keep the wood below that top row of holes to allow that smokeless design to work. And it kind of was a challenge, but our firewood is cut long. I think if you just got some at the gas station, it would probably fit just fine. To start this thing, I'm going to use my favorite new long handle torch that I love. I feel like I'm really tiny in the video right now. This is a really big boy, and you do not want to sit up close to it. It started really easily, especially with my torch. The directions did say that there would be more smoke at the beginning when you're lighting it, which there was. I already am starting to see a little less smoke than when I first lit it. So let's let this burn a little bit longer and see what happens with the smoke. The original 7 pieces of firewood have been burning for about 20 minutes, and they finally collapsed into the fire pit. I was seeing some smoke before the firewood collapsed, but the pieces were sticking up above those top holes. So I was kind of anxious to see what happened when they did fall down and they were more toward the bottom. And I am still seeing a little bit of smoke. I was in the smoke trail for a second and I did detect a little bit. It's not terrible. It doesn't seem as smoky as it would with a traditional fire ring, but I would not call this a smokeless fire pit when burning wood, at least. So I am gonna stick a few more pieces on just to heat it up a little bit and see if that makes any difference. Safety first. Putting more, I'm in the smoke trail right now. It's hot. Change direction. When I put more wood on the fire, it did get hotter, and I did notice that there was less smoke. I would say this is definitely better than just a traditional fire ring as far as the smoke goes. There aren't that many embers flying out of this thing, especially after I added the firewood and the fire heated up. But I am still going to show you the spark screen. It actually comes with this tool that I use to move firewood around also, and it works great for that. But you can also use that to safely stick this thing on top. Just like that. There does seem to be a little bit of residue on the spark screen that has to burn off at first. So you can see there's more dark smoke, and that isn't coming from the wood, that is coming from the spark screen. But once that burns off, then it's fine. Now that this thing is burning so much hotter with the extra firewood, I was really curious to see how hot does the Mammoth get. So I'm going to use my infrared thermometer and find out. The top of the fire pit is a little over 500 degrees. The bottom is around 400, and the concrete underneath is about 310 degrees. It's cooled down enough that I can put the pellets in, and I'm going to use these Pit Boss pellets because the price was right. The instructions said to put about 2 inches of pellets in this fire pit, and I'm kind of curious to see how much of this 20-pound bag of pellets it takes to get 2 inches in here. Okay, question answered. It's going to take more than just one 20-pound bag of pellets. Luckily, I have another one. I'm betting it's gonna use at least half of this. So if you wanna use pellets in the Mammoth, 2 20-pound bags or grab a 40-pound bag. That's math. The embers in the bottom are starting to heat up some of these pellets, and it actually smells really good. Okay, so here's the second bag of pellets. So I did put about 1.5 of those 20-pound bag of pellets in here. I'm going to use the same stump chunks to get it started. Hey, it started really easily, but what I have found is just starting it in one corner is going to take a long time for that fire to spread across the whole pit. So if I were to do it again, I would either start it in the middle or do what I'm going to do now and put a little starter at different points around the edge. And one for good luck. As you can see, the whole pit is on fire now, and it is scorching hot with the pellets. And I'm seeing a ton of that secondary burn come out of that top ring of holes. I'm also seeing like fire vortex sometimes coming out. That is how hot this is. Right now, this feels like the mother of all fire pits. If you were looking for heat, this thing is gonna bring it. And I'm not smelling any smoke at all with the pellets. This is the 4th blue sky that I have tested, and it kind of seems like there's a theme across the board, that the wood has a little bit of smoke and the pellets are completely smokeless. You don't get that really nice crackle that you get with burning wood, but it is really easy and it actually smells really good. So keeping the smoke to a minimum is something that is important to you. The Mammoth can bring you that with the pellets for sure. With how big and hot this fire is, I'm really curious to get some temperature readings on it. Luckily, this thing works from far away because this is the furthest away I've ever been for a temperature test, so I'm gonna do my best. Where is the laser? Top of the pit is about 550 degrees. The bottom of the pit is about 200 degrees, and the concrete underneath is about 160 degrees. I'm gonna let it burn itself out so we can see how much fire we get out of that 1.5 bags of pellets. As you can see, the pellets burn themselves out. And that 1.5 bags of pellets that we used, around 30 pounds of pellets, lasted about 50 minutes. That can give you some indication about how much fire you'll get out of how many pellets you have. But also it would make a difference if we just started the fire in one place like I did at the beginning versus starting it in several places around the pit. But that'll give you an idea. To clean the Mammoth, the instructions said to use a broom to sweep some of the ashes onto the grate and then just lift up the handles to pull it all out. It really couldn't be easier than that. Let's talk about some pros and cons with the Blue Sky Mammoth. One con is burning wood wasn't 100% smokeless. With the Blue Sky Mammoth, there was a little bit. And when I say just a little bit, I mean just a little bit. So while that's not a huge con, the fact that it is advertised as being smokeless is close. Not as much as a traditional fire pit ring, but not totally smokeless. One other thing that could be a con is just how big it is. That doesn't have to be a con. If you want something big for a group, perfect. But it took 2 of us to move this. I'm usually a very impatient person. I move things by myself, even if it's dumb to do so or to try to do so. I couldn't move this by myself. I needed a buddy. So just know that this is not a fire pit that's going to be easy to take with you camping or tailgating. Probably once you put it out for the season, it's going to stay out for the season. And now let's talk about some pros. While there was a little bit of detectable smoke with the wood, there was none with the pellets. And they had a really good smell. It was like, it made me hungry, that kind of smell. Also, it has that dual fuel capability, which is nice. If you've got wood, you can burn wood. If you've got pellets, you can burn pellets. It's versatile. And also because of that, you can determine how much heat you want depending on what time of year it is. The wood burned hot, but the pellets burned really hot. It makes a great fire. It would be perfect for groups. That part is 5 stars. Also, these Blue Skies are very durable. This one you don't have to assemble at all, and really I don't even know what would break off of it to make it not work anymore. So it's gonna last a long time. It also was really easy to clean with that ashtray that you can just lift out and dump where you want. And another pro is that there are accessories that you can get with this to make it even better, like the spark screen and the tabletop. So is this thing too big to be functional? I don't think so. I actually think it's a great size. It can give you a big fire for a family or a group of friends, and it still feels manageable, like you're not putting a million pieces of wood in it. So I really like the size of the Mammoth. And if you like the look and function of this one, but think it might be a little more than you need, or if you'd like a decent sized fire pit that you can still take camping or tailgating, in this next video, I may have the perfect fire pit for you. So thanks for watching and have fun at your next campfire.